There we go.
Now
Beautiful.
we're live. Now we're live.
On Tuesday. Thanks everybody for joining us today. We got a really great guest for you today. If you are a wholesaler, you're interested in the wholesaling, we got George Beatty on from the Philly market. He is a rock star wholesaler. Last year in 2019, his company is it PA Property Pals or
Property Pals is fine.
Okay, so his company PA Property Pals wholesaled 130
Problem Property Pals.
Whoa, excuse me?
Problem Property Pals. I know it's
I can already tell that Josh is going to be the problem here on this call, George. Maybe you and I should just talk. Maybe that's
I'm failing already. All right. Bottom line is George did 130 wholesale deals. His company did, and
that's 10 a month.
Yeah, his company generated revenues of about $3 million last year. That's a massive wholesaler. If you are in the business, you know that. But yeah, without further ado, George, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. How'd you get in real estate?
Hey, my name is George Beatty. I'm a wholesaler extraordinaire. I'm 30 years old. I live in the greater Philadelphia area. I've been in real estate for 5 years. October of 2014 is when I went and looked at my first house. It's been a wild ride since then. I got in the business, kind of by accident. I was selling windows and siding with a window and siding company, one call closing people and all that stuff. And I met a guy. Pardon me?
I said, those companies are fun.
Yes. Very, very fun. So I met a guy at a diner with friends, just like a mutual friend, and was like, hey man, what do you do for a living? And, he said he wholesaled real estate and was like, what's that? And, he told me, and I was like, all right, well, how do you get someone to sell you their house for like 30% of what it's worth? Like, that sounds impossible to do. And he told me, and I was like, oh, that's like kind of what I'm doing to sell people windows for like $1,000 a piece or like, $10 a square foot roofs. I'm pretty good at that. I bet I would be pretty good at wholesaling. Or at least like on the seller side, right? Like, I don't know about the title or whatever. And, we partnered up for a couple of years and, not obviously right away, actually, I guess sort of right away. Yeah. We started working together and just, worked and, we're not partners anymore. And, I do my thing, he does his. And, that's how I got in the business, sort of by accident. I was not one of those people that, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when they were 15 and always dreamed of having real estate investments and went to all the seminars and read all the financial books and stuff like that. Like, I'm a salesperson by trade, and now I'm a marketer and, effectively a business owner now by trade. I'm in real estate. That happens to be where I practice my talents. But, I think usually when I see other people interview, they're like, oh yeah, I've always dreamed of being a landlord and stuff. I'm like, nah. I thought about it. Yeah, it might be nice to have like a vacation house and a couple people paying rent and stuff like that. But by no means was it like a calculated endeavor that I've been in since I was like 5. You know what I mean?
Well, that actually brings up a really interesting point, George, because I'm similar. I have an entrepreneurial and sales background. I got started in real estate pretty early, but I've always just done real estate. I think that the interesting thing is the real estate business is fundamentally a real estate business. And you should take whatever skills you have that you're currently applying in the business world and taking to market and bring them to the real estate world. So if you're a marketer, if you're a salesman, if you're an engineer and good at solving problems, if you are, a contractor and can walk a property, and find what does or doesn't need to be done, like whatever your situation is, then you should, absolutely just bring that to the real estate world.
Yeah. What, George? All right. What do you think the secret sauce is? So like you're in a what is it, top 5 market in the country, right?
I don't know.
Philadelphia is like 5th or 6th, depending on how you measure it, and it's metropolitan market. It's like New York, then LA, then Chicago, or maybe I have those two reversed, and Chicago's definitely pissed at me.
Yeah.
And then like some other California city, and then Philly.
Oh. So with that backdrop, like how do you differentiate yourself? What do you think it is that really is giving you the success that you have? I mean, like we both know Philadelphia. It's a really competitive market. There's a lot of people trying to hustle deals out there.
Yeah.
What's the competitive advantage that you bring to the table with your company that a lot of people are missing, do you think?
Like when I was getting started, how I got here, or what is it now?
Just now. I mean, like look, over the last 6 months, the market certainly changed, but going through the end of 2019, you'd walk into a house, or maybe not you, but one of your salespeople, I'm sure, walk into a house and they got 20 other people knocking on the door trying to buy it.
Oftentimes,
so, right. So, what's your secret sauce?
I mean, I have excellent people that I work with. Like that's a if I don't mention that, like I'm making a mistake, right? Like people that I have on my team are excellent, and if they're not, they end up showing themselves out, at some point.
Yeah.
So like,
well, not only if they're not excellent, but also if you don't treat them like they're excellent.
Yeah,
so that's the important thing about having a strong team around you, is you've got to love on that team, or else they'll go find maybe as not a great opportunity someplace else where they do get loved on. I always say attention is babies cry for it and die for it.
Yeah, that's in a lot of sage management books, like absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I have excellent people that work for me that know what they're doing, that study and work hard. But I mean, from aside from that, because in the example that you provided, when there's 20 other people in the house, like I don't have shit to do with that. That's the sales guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, right. So, and then there's a lot of credibility stuff we can do. Here's a proof of funds. These are the things to look out for from other wholesalers, like, dressing well, being presentable when you go to a house, like things like that really matter. So we do those things. But in terms of like competitive advantage over other people in the marketplace, magic bullet, whatever, like aside from hard work and consistency, which again, always should be mentioned, data is probably the number one bit of that. I don't mean necessarily like motivated seller lists, although we do have a very, very robust data program, for lack of a better term, that is very good and better than anything that I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah.
Though when I say data, I mean, like, I know all of my numbers. I know how much a postcard costs me. I know how much a letter costs me. I know what I should expect to get back from a letter or a postcard to whatever set of people. I know how many leads, or like, also everything in my company is categorized or compartmentalized that and meets certain like evidence-based steps, right? So we're also very evidence-based, right? So like, as an example of that is, when I sit down to do a marketing campaign, I'm not as much like, oh, I did this one deal with somebody 3 or 4 years ago in this one neighborhood where I made 50 grand. I want to do another one. I'm going to hit that neighborhood as hard as I can. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, if I send 10,000 mailers a week or a day or whatever to X, what's my return on that? Because if I'm chasing the one single deal, it's really easy to blow all my money marketing in Rittenhouse, right? Chasing a $30,000 assignment. Like, we do $30,000 assignments in like fucking West Philly, or like, whatever the equivalent of Harrisburg, downtown Harrisburg is for you guys. Yeah. Or,
So let me just try and say this a different way, George. So what you're saying is, if you send out X number of postcards, you're going to get X number of phone calls, and X number of phone calls is going to lead to Y number of appointments, and that many appointments is going to lead to, there's always going to be some no-shows and some cancellations.
Sure. So
that many carried through appointments, and that many carried through appointments is going to lead to so many. So you say, or metrics. I find that some people take too simple of approach to that. And so they say, oh, well, if I do 1,000 postcards, I should do this many deals. And if I didn't do enough deals, then I need to just send more postcards. Well, no, maybe you need to tweak how you're presenting, or maybe you need to tweak how you're taking those phone calls, or maybe there's other things. And so you would say that understanding that process has been a key to your success?
Yeah. So to your example, you need to understand your system and where your different errors or monkey wrenches or issues or strengths can arise within your system, and making sure that it's in the right place. So like, as an example, we answer the phone pretty much the same way every time. We follow back up with people pretty much the same way. We set appointments for outside salespeople that meet like 4 criteria or 5 criteria, right? So then like if, I measure everything, or as many things as I can. So to your example, if we're not closing deals, I'm like, all right, well, we set this many appointments. Why aren't we closing deals? Is there an inefficiency there? Like, to your point. Although if you're only sending 1,000 postcards, send fucking more. You're not going to, I don't know what your market's like, but I need to send like 10,000 to get a deal, right? So, or 8,000, depending on, what list it is and some other factors.
Well, yeah, the Philly market is definitely a lot more saturated than what a lot of things are here in Central PA. And all right, so let's highlight. I want to bring something up here because it's a relevant comment, even though we're going to get a little bit off track here. Highlight for me, if you could, Stephen's. All right, so I have the power to show and hide too. You do it. Okay, we're both on doing that at the same time. So Stephen says, interesting topic, is Judah's not a big fan of wholesalers, as he's found they do not value the property.
Yeah, that's fair.
So and that's funny because that's a wholesaler saying that. I'm so glad you say that, George.
Yeah, of course not.
I have a big. I will humbly say, in the Central PA area, I have a big following, and Stephen's one of my guys who follows me, and I always tell everyone, like, if you want to know what a value of a property is, ask your average wholesaler. And then if your value lines up with what the average wholesaler says the value is, you're wrong. It's a good way to check.
You know what? That goes to a point here. George, what is your objective when you have a deal? What is your sole objective?
To sell it for the most amount of money to whoever will pay me that most amount of money with no hassles. Or without rocking the boat too much.
Okay.
So our objectives are misaligned, right? So like when you're looking at a deal, you're looking at, okay, like how can I refinance this property out, have no money out of pocket, make money from it, da, da, da. I am looking at it from the perspective of Judah probably knows what he's doing. I don't want to sell a deal to him. He's not going to give me as much money as fucking Steve or whatever. But right. I want to expose my deal to the greatest number of people possible. Have a mass showing, highest and best everybody, and take the top number, right? Assuming it's cash and I'm really going to get the money. All the other questions revolve around, am I actually going to get paid, right? Every single other.
And the point that I'm making there is, like, you should absolutely listen to the wholesaler and what they say the value is. You should absolutely listen to the wholesaler and what they say the rent is. You should absolutely listen to the wholesaler when they say the rehab is going to cost X, Y, Z. But you should not explicitly only trust the wholesaler.
Yeah,
they're probably going to be close to the right number, and it's up to you to determine, for good, bad, or indifferent. Maybe you're one of these guys that wants to do an above average rehab and then push the value. Maybe you're somebody who wants to say, I don't care what market value is, I'm going to sell it 5% below market, because that way I can sell it quicker and with less contingencies on the open market. So, I love working with wholesalers. I just know that no one looks out for my numbers for my sake except for me. That doesn't mean wholesalers are snakes in the grass or whatever, but you almost kind of got to treat everybody with a little bit of suspicion.
Yeah, I mean, you're investing your own money. You should be, anybody who's buying a deal from anyone should be doing their own due diligence, or at least having somebody that they unconditionally trust doing said due diligence, i.e. not just, quote, a real estate agent, like someone that knows what they're doing, has their own investments, like things like that, has your best interest at heart. I mean, I don't know about how it is in Harrisburg, but a lot of real estate agents in Philly are fucking dumb.
Yeah. Right? Hey, so Steve, let me ask you a question here. So, because George, Steve brings up a good point here. He says that I was going to put on a wholesaling clinic here in the summer before COVID happened and everything like that. Just, would you be willing to like come up for a Saturday if we spend half a Saturday teaching people the no BS, really real, not trying to sell a book, tape, or seminar, the really real behind the scenes methods of how to be an awesome wholesaler?
Like in person?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's going to cost us.
It honestly depends on
All right, we'll move this conversation along, and Josh, it's your job to your good friend George's.
It's like 2 hours away, so it's like, you guys.
You can sleep on my couch; it'll be great.
Yeah,
you can sleep on my.
Don't you have 9 kids, bro? Like, come on, dude.
Well, they're sleeping there too.
Yeah, but broad strokes, Judah. Yeah, I like doing stuff like that. I find it fulfilling.
We'll figure something out, or maybe I'll do one down in the Philadelphia market or something like that.
Yeah. I do not like going over. I fucking hate doing it with people that are like totally new and like really totally green. Like they always ask me, is it better to wholesale in an LLC or a trust?
Right.
They always ask me like, should I send direct mail? It's just like, and every time I hear one of those questions, I end up yelling at everybody there. I'm like, whoever thinks that that's a real question at this point in your career is an idiot. What you should be looking for is direct access to sellers. The only thing that Matt got, I'm about to go off now. It's just,
right.
Go off.
Yeah, go off. Do it.
I calmed myself down. But yeah, you're fucking stupid. First of all. Second of all, you're never going to do anything with your goddamn life. How long have you been sitting on the fucking couch watching podcasts, reading books, and not doing a goddamn thing? When is the last time you fucking put your money where your mouth was and spent your last dollar, spent your last waking moment knocking on someone's door that showed up on a list because you don't have any more fucking money to send the mail? Knock on their goddamn door. It doesn't cost a fucking.
I tell people all the time, knock on doors. I remember, so I've been in the promotion business for a long time. Like I love being Don King, not the one actually in the rink punching. So
you're a promoter?
Yeah, I love being a promoter.
Oh, so, dude, I'll come to a fight, bro. You fucking
no. I'm talking about in the real estate world.
Oh,
I mean, like the real estate world. Anyway, the point is, I've been backstage with everybody, and I'm also an active real estate investor myself. And so I remember asking this one power couple, and I won't mention their names, and I was like, why don't you guys talk about like renting a van and putting We Buy Houses on it, and you talk about this and you talk about that. I've got some of my best deals by just taking a Saturday and going and knocking on 100 doors. And they say, oh yeah, we don't talk about knocking on doors from the front of the stage because it doesn't sell courses.
That's fair. Yeah.
And because they're like, people are afraid to do that. I gotta tell you, man, like, you've got to want to do whatever it is in real estate more than you hate your job, or more than you hate the medical bills, or more than you hate having your spouse working instead of being home with the kids or whatever. Like there's going to be pain in doing the push-ups, but you've got to want to do the push-ups more than you hate having flabby arms. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what you're saying. I said it with less curse words. I don't know. Maybe that'll resonate better with some people.
Once the passion comes with a little bit of rage and a little bit of swearing, and
It's great. It's great. We'll just parental warning this click when we
like seriously, wake the fuck up. You're wasting your goddamn life. And my fucking time, which I value more than yours.
Right. So that's exactly right. So George, that's the other thing that I tell people all the time. And I get all kinds of heat from this, is I say knowledge is not power. The only people who tell you knowledge or power are selling you a book or a course or a seminar. Ugh. Knowledge is not power. Action is power. We need to think about what we did before we do it, and we need to think about what we did after we do it. But the knowledge doesn't come from the thinking of, or the power doesn't come from the thinking about. The power comes from the action.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So, George,
yeah,
let's take this into
rescue us, Josh. We're way out in the deep waters, my friend.
It's cool. I mean, this is important stuff. What's the value? So one of the comments here is that Judah doesn't appreciate wholesalers because they often don't bring value.
I just tell my audience to be leery of wholesalers because they've been taken advantage of by wholesalers. But they also get some of their best deals from wholesalers.
What's the most important part of the transaction on your end? Like, what do you, if somebody's thinking about wholesaling deals,
mm-hmm.
what is the number one thing they need to do? I mean, you just said it, but let's say it again.
Get a really good deal. I mean, it's the same thing on, if you're a real investor, you make your money when you buy. I make my money when I sign a contract with the seller, right? So like I think that doesn't get enough attention as it should. As an example, like you're a wholesaler, you're not writing up, or you should not be writing up a property for a couple grand more than Judah would buy it for, because Judah already made the seller an offer and you just really want the deal, and and in your brain, you're going to sell it to somebody no matter what. Well, at the end of the day, though, there is emotion involved, and like you can use like sales tactics like we do to sell our deals for more money than anybody else. You're ultimately selling like a commodity, right? And like, people have a different opinion of value for that commodity, but like you're not going to sell Microsoft stock for, and forgive me, I don't know how much Microsoft stock is worth. You're not going to sell it for $10,000. It's only worth $1,000. You might be able to sell it for $110 to somebody, or $1,010, but you're not selling it for $5,000. So, if I say I want $1,000 for my Microsoft stock, you can't just be like, all right, here you go, and expect to find Judah to buy it for you for, $1,100.
Yeah, the principle you're talking about there is, if you can't find it, don't rely on finding a bigger sucker. If your strategy of getting out of a deal is finding a bigger sucker than you, then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, good luck, right? So
Josh, let me ask you a question. Do you think that moving forward, there's a lot of people who think that the buyer pool that wholesalers sell their deals to is going to be drying up, and therefore wholesale in effect is dead moving forward? Do you think, or how is wholesaling going to be different moving forward?
So that has yet to be seen what it's going to look like after the shutdown. There's a lot of like local economic things I think that are really going to come into play. Almost certainly the environment of selling things for more than they're like legitimately more than they're worth is probably over. Whereas you've got some old school guys that are like, everything's more than it's worth. Like, I'm not talking about like an old school guy saying everything's more than it's worth. I mean, like the real value of things like that is probably going to disappear. I have no intention of stopping wholesaling. I'm actually getting ready to double down on recruiting and marketing following this. I have invested more money in marketing in the meantime. We are seeing a significant shift on the buy side here in the Philadelphia area. Quite significant, frankly, so far, though. We're in this unprecedented market space now where the governor of Pennsylvania has said, you cannot do real estate activities, right? So people are still buying, like we're still selling deals to people. Like it's like where we run into issues is, we call real estate agents, or we send our properties out to real estate agents to show their buyers. And the real estate agent themselves is like, no, we can't do that right now. I'm not sending this to anybody, which, we sell things virtually. We can get video, like whatever, or like just send somebody through by themselves, like those things. So, there is a significant vacuum of people buying deals right now, for sure. Right. That's happened.
Right.
I mean, we're still doing deals. Like we put a property under contract the other day that we're waiting for some paperwork back, but I think we're going to make 50, 60K on, so
it's not bad.
Like I think when people say wholesaling as we know it is dead, I think that what the truth is, and maybe what they mean is the days of you seeing a YouTube video on how to get rich quick in real estate investment with no time, no credit, no money. You send out 500 postcards and all of a sudden you make 30 grand and you quit your job. And I think that person is going to disappear. The get rich quick person is going to disappear. And I think that the likelihood of, because, let's face it, a lot of people like that, they get lucky, right? Like,
sure.
Right. Like, oh,
yeah, people who send out 500 or 5,000 cards get nothing and go back to their day job, don't write books.
That's correct. Right. So
people who swing for the fences and strike out don't write books. People who swing for the fences and get a hit write a book. And then people think that that's how you succeed, is by swinging for the fences and being crazy. And it's really about, like you said initially in the conversation, consistency and hard work.
Yeah. Well, I would say that the people that keep swinging the bat, regardless of what happens, write the book. Sometimes it is the person that just hit a homer right off the bat. But yeah, like I think a lot of that is going to wash out because the buyer pool has frankly washed out significantly already. And, the guy that like barely made any money sending out a bunch of postcards, which is common in Philly. I sent 30,000 postcards. I got one deal. I made $6,000. All of a sudden that guy's not making $6,000 anymore. All the buyer numbers dropped. They don't have all these good systems and good practices and good culture and good habits. They're just like, I want to send 5,000 postcards today, whatever. There's no systems behind those. I think that most of those people will be washed out. And then when the market comes back again, they'll be back, and, it'll just be like that over and over and over again. But remember, wholesalers feed off of, distress in the marketplace. They feed off of debt, death, distress, things like that. What makes you think that the amount of death, distress, and debt is going to go down in a period like this? If anything,
preach it, brother. Preach it.
Decrease while your competition is decreasing at the same time. Like, I buy leads from a couple of lead buying sites, like to supplement our lead flow. Like, lead costs has dropped significantly on them. I stopped buying them before because they got astronomically expensive for literally no reason. So, yes, the buy side is very important for wholesaling. Like, it ultimately serves that market. If buyers disappear completely, that's going to be a problem. But again, the principle of wholesaling, you get an amazing deal and you sell somebody else a good deal. And the difference between a good deal and an amazing deal is your money, right?
That's an excellent way to say it, my friend.
Yeah. So where the good deal line is probably will change. And, the only constant in life is change. So, if you change in our dynamic with it, you should be fine if this is your business like it is mine. But yeah, I mean, dude, if you're like a one-man band wholesaler, just like, you quit your job a year or two ago, you're making good money doing a flip here there. Honestly, if I was in that position, I would entirely stop marketing right now for probably 6 months, and I would just hold all of my cash. Right.
Let me ask you, all right. So follow up on that. You're saying because we don't know, actually, I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
Okay.
Where do you see the market projecting over the next, 90 days, 120 days, next year?
I'm sorry. What is the market projecting?
Where do you see price points going in the near future?
Dude, this shit's changing like day by day.
Come on, you're
probably 10% down. I think that ARVs or appraised value, whatever number you use, is likely going to drop by approximately 10% within the foreseeable future. Already has in some cases, but there's a lot of macro things that deeply affect the real estate market. Mortgage rates, the Fed, business lending, unemployment, like who's buying houses, right? There's a lot of shit there that affects housing prices. And Philadelphia, the market that I'm in, tends to be much more stable than your San Francisco's and your Florida's, because, and I don't know if Harrisburg is the same way. We have a lot of
is very stable as well, even more so than the Philadelphia market.
So, whereas, Florida and California probably had a full crash. I know I have a buddy in DC that runs a pretty big operation. He says it's been pretty wild there. Like, we've definitely had some adjustments here, but it hasn't been to the level of significance that I've heard that it's been in, places like maybe Miami or what have you. But yeah, I think, so the positive of being in a stable market is, in times like this, should still be pretty fine. The downside is when things are going crazy and really good, you're not accidentally making $200K on a wholesale spread, right?
Right. So let me ask you a question, George. So you talked about the value and the importance of team, and you also talked about that you want to answer some slightly higher level questions here than just like newbie beginner questions.
Yeah, or it's not the trust versus LLC question. Yeah.
Right. But you did 10 deals a month last year, plus a little bit. So in order to close 10 deals a month, you've almost got to be working on 15 to 20 because of fallout and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So how many people do you have on your team? And you're not rehabbing many of these properties, so you don't have contractors and things like that. Just what are some of the other team positions that you have? I guess you've got somebody like going out and meeting with motivated sellers, but then you have people who specialize in like cultivating and making the buyer's list, or is that what you do? Is that a separate sales position on that side? What does your structure look like?
Good question. So there's a lot there. So I'm going to start with the team structure. that was the first question, was like, what's your team look like?
Yeah.
Also, our average assignment fee is like astronomically high compared to other wholesaling companies. So though like 10 deals a month for our like, and a lot of people can do more transactions than us. We do a lot of higher value ones. Actually, you know what sucks, man? We've been writing up 20 deals a month for a while. As soon as this thing happened, it fucking dropped off again. But we were on pace to like really knock last year out of the fucking water. But anyway,
what is your average, if you don't mind me asking, what is your average assignment fee?
Our average net fee is 25 grand. Net means after we pay a real estate agent, after we pay sale related costs, that's what like the salespeople get paid on. Our gross spread, like we wrote it up for 20 and we sold it for 30, is probably more like 28 or 30K on average.
Great.
That's across.
What do you pay your salesman? So that guy sitting down talking with the motivated seller, what is that guy? How do you pay them? You pay them a percentage of what they get, or you pay them like $3,000 per deal, or is it a 10% of whatever the sale is? How do you compensate them?
Good question. Before I answer that, I'm gonna talk about our team structure a little bit because it's an important segue into that.
Sorry.
So I compartmentalize departments of my company. So we have appointment setters, and now appointment setters are segmented into junior appointment setters and senior appointment setters, i.e., does this person know what a triplex is? Right?
Right.
Like, do you know what a title search is?
Oh, that's funny.
Right. So then, the juniors are like, hey, you have a house you want to sell? All right, cool. Let me get such and such on the phone. So they deal with the fuck yous and the whatever. And then the appointment setter's job is to qualify and sort of warm up leads for the outside salespeople, and then they set them into the outside sales rep's calendar. So we have people sitting around answering the phone, dialing out to people, setting leads for our outside sales guys, so the outside sales guys can focus on comping and doing walkthroughs with sellers. The outside sales guys are the ones that go to the house and try to one call close it, or if they can't get it on the spot, they'll get it like a little bit later or what have you. So they comp the property, talk the seller into it, follow it up after that point. And then there's the dispositions team. The dispositions team is 2 people, and they sell all of our deals to buyers. There's another person that helps with relocation services if somebody needs to move and we're going to help them. But basically, there's a transaction coordinator that does all the title shit, all the, hey, I need a payoff for XYZ shit. And they're very important, of course, as well. So, basically we have sales, lead generation, and operations. And then me, George Beatty, I do all like the marketing and like the oversight stuff. So operations is dispositions and transaction coordination, i.e. whatever happens after you put a pen to paper with the seller. Outside sales reps take a qualified lead, move it into a sale, and then the appointment setter lead generation people move things into being a qualified lead. So once upon a time, the outside sales reps used to do lead generation and dispositions. They'd be responsible for the whole shit. They used to make, a considerably larger percentage as a result. So now, they only do the one thing. So, it's not what it was before, but it's percentage wise for like what you do, it's sort of more money. The standard in the industry for paying outside sales reps is 10%. Of the deal. If you're trying to figure out what you should pay an acquisitions person, you should probably start with that, or maybe a little more if you think that they're going to be good, whatever. So my people will make a sliding scale of the deal, depending on how big of a deal it is, right? So like if they do a $20,000 assignment, they make less of a percentage than if it's a $25,000 assignment. So they're incentivized. So like the more money there is, those little tiers you go up, you make a disproportionate percentage of the additional tier, like a hugely disproportionate percentage because it's applied to the whole ship. So, I think that's one of the big reasons for our average sale price being what it is the sales guys are like very well incentivized to make as much money as they can on that. Dispositions is the same way. Bigger the deal is, the more of a percentage they make, so on and so forth. But
how many guys do you have meeting with motivated sellers in their houses right now? How many of those sales guys do you have?
I have 2 full-time that are doing that. I have 1 person that does some in-person stuff and then some over the phone stuff that we're transitioning into doing more in-person stuff, i.e. she does like the ones where there's a squatter or they're out of state and don't have access. She also does lower end areas that, we found over a period of time that it's not very efficient for us to send outside sales reps to Darby, as an example, most of the time, because we can only sell the property for 20 grand. And then there's oftentimes debt and, Like your average assignment fee is fucking 25 grand. You're going to go to a house that's only worth 20.
Right.
It's like, where is our time being best spent? But we still want to write those deals up. We just do it, in a different way. Yeah.
Let me ask you another question here, George, because I've done in my past life, I've done some one call, one close. It actually was like in the middle of my sales career, and it was kind of fun, kind of interesting doing that. So you basically did for that siding and window company what your front end sales guys are doing right now, and that's a great position to be in. But now you are a business executive. Totally different skill set than being a sales guy on the road. A lot more responsibility, a lot more headache. Did you know that that's what you were getting into? Did you want to get into that? Would you caution people?
So I've always been good at one call closing and like doing that, but I've never really like truly loved it. You know what I mean? And I've always sort of like fantasized about like running the business. Like since I was that I have fantasized about since I was a young person. So, am I good at being an outside sales rep and one call closing? Yeah, I am. Do I like it? Not really. I like the negotiations, the rush of like, is this person going to sign or not? I really like that.
Sales is a drug, man.
It is. I really do like that. But what I don't like, but I only like it when I want to have it, right? Like the thing about outside sales that like people sort of don't talk about when you're one call closing and you're driving fucking all over creation, right? In your car for 6 hours a day, you can't shit in your own bathroom. You're going to fucking McDonald's. Like you get to someone's house, took you an hour and a half to get there, and they tell you to fuck off as soon as you show up. And you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean fuck off? I look at all these notes. Or they're not even home and they said they were going to, you know what I mean? Like that shit drives you crazy and it sucks. And after a while, and like
salesmen are broken. That's what I always say. Like, I don't understand why, like we are half emotionally numb to the world. And it's the only way you can survive as a salesman is to be somewhat of a broken individual.
There's different kinds of sales, right? So we're talking about short cycle, high pressure, dominant sales where you're getting, you're not servicing the same 10 clients over the next 5 years because you work at a janitorial supply company and all you got to do is keep Mr. Marks happy and he'll keep buying $30,000 worth of fucking masks from you a month forever. Right. So like you got to kill what you eat every day.
Right.
You have to put on a new face for everyone you meet. You have to be 100%. You got to be everybody's best friend. It's fucking hard. Right.
Emotionally and physically draining. People don't understand how
it is.
I get home from a sales day and I am tired.
It is. Flip side is you're also like an excellent salesperson in this business. Like a little bit of context. So on average, every year we close about 35% of our seller leads or seller appointments as deals. We write them as contracts. So, an excellent salesperson on an excellent month will close at like 40%. That still means you're getting no more than not. You're getting people slam a door in your face, call you crazy, an idiot. And like the difference between someone that's mediocre, maybe closes 30%, 28% versus someone that's really good or even excellent, 35 or 40%, whatever the number is, like, that's not that much.
No, exactly.
Not. And like, you're still getting people telling you to fuck. It's like if you're knocking on doors, they'll knock on 100 doors. You get yes one time if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Or like an excellent person knocking on doors is getting a yes 7 times, whereas someone that sucks is getting yes 5 times. It's like, you're talking about over 90% rejection rate. Like that drives you crazy.
Right.
It is hard. There's a lot of mental energy stuff that goes into it and it can drive you fucking crazy. But to answer your initial question, I prefer business owning and management based on my personality type, what I like to be doing. And frankly, what I think that I'm good at. Like when I was selling, I would go into slumps where I didn't feel like it. And it was really hard for me to get out of that I don't feel like it mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard, right? To be candid, like I fucking blew it on who knows how many leads, both with windows and real estate, just because I like wasn't in a good mind frame. It's really hard, right? But, now like I still have a little bit of I haven't been running leads for a couple of years. Like I still have a connection to some of that or like the way that it can be. That's like the lifeblood of our business is outside say is like pen to paper is like one call close people, right? But now like seeing the whole forest instead of just the trees is like, look at these leads I've got right here. I thoroughly enjoy the other aspects of management, like the data side of things, the metric side of things, knowing my numbers, what happens about this number, what happens about that number, recruiting and things like that. Like I really, really enjoy those things. And like, they give me an opportunity to like grow and get better at so many different things that like, typically I wouldn't have an opportunity or a reason to like, as an example, like look at how bad of an accountant I am, right? Like I'm really bad with money actually. Like I used to be way worse. Like now, like, I run a business and like, I guess I'm pretty good with it, but that wasn't something I was born with. Like I was either born or like raised to be a pretty good salesperson. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was just good at it. I've just always been good at it. Right. But I was not good at measuring marketing stuff or, basically doing evidence-based business. But that's been really fulfilling for me and effective on the business front for me to learn and get better at, what it takes to run a successful business and grow and scale a successful business, both in a up market as well as a down market.
George, on that note, what do you do with salespeople? How do you manage your salespeople in a way that you can take advantage of when they got a hot hand, but also kind of when somebody gets into one of those slumps, how do you help them get out of it? I mean, you've been there.
That's fucking hard, dude.
Identifying it can cost you thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So,
we can come back.
You have to know whether they're in a slump.
Yeah.
And know, like, you have to have numbers, right? To know whether that's going on. Because, like, if you're not measuring how many leads does this guy get? Are they the same leads? Are they closing them? How many did they get? Is it enough to be statistically significant, right? Did they get enough leads where I can say, okay, they're in a slump or not? Like, if you don't have that shit and you're just doing it based upon, quote, how you're feeling, you're going to fuck something up.
Right.
Guaranteed. You're going to fuck something up, or you're going to be wrong. And if you're doing it on instinct, if you're a fucking rock star, like I'm talking like the oracle, fortune teller, psychic, your instincts are right half of the time. That's excellent, right? So, just the human mind is not set up to have your instincts be correct. They're set up to help you survive, right? So alarm bells will ring over nothing, things like that. So, if you have legitimate measurement statistics that says this person is in a slump, and meaning his performance was here and now it's here over a few weeks or a month, you should bring it up with them. I mean, half the time they might not even know. Mm-hmm. For me, bringing up things like that really helps. Like, oh, it's not the leads. I'm just having a bad day. I'm chasing this one time this one person said no, things like that. But to be upfront, all of the sales reps that I've had that have been in slumps that wouldn't go away, or more accurately, probably their whole career with me was a slump, they don't work here anymore. Right. Yeah. So, like you have to kill what you eat. Like it costs me $1,000 in marketing. This is not an exaggeration or a joke. And this is not including other costs. It costs me $1,000 in marketing, not overhead, marketing, to have an outside sales rep go to a seller appointment. $1,000, right? Yeah. So, if I give somebody 20, 30 leads a month, I'm spending $20,000 or $30,000 just in marketing on that one salesperson. So if I am not confident that this person is a hard worker, wants to make the most amount of money possible, is going to give their all, whatever, their numbers are at a certain level, they're not going to get leads anymore. Right. So like, going back to I have excellent people on my team. Like I fucking really do. Like they've made themselves apparent. They've stuck around. They've been those people that, respect that, or they're fucking money motivated, hardworking people in and of themselves. They're not like, oh, I made 60, 70 grand last year. Like I'm good. Like that's not the type of person that's like successful here in the first place. But, everybody goes into slumps, or at least pretty much everybody will go into some type at some point if you're in sales. And it might not necessarily be like, I'm in a slump. It might just be like, shit, the last 2 leads, I really could have fucking had those and I didn't. What happened?
Right.
But like, I guess, luckily or whatever for me, I don't have a huge sales team. If I had 10, 20 sales reps, it'd probably be a lot bigger of an issue than it is for me. But like, you know, I got a bunch of fucking killers, you know, but that's the answer. The real answer for the slump thing is ride-alongs. You need to go with your salespeople and see what they're doing,
right,
to see if they're following the script and doing the thing. Because if usually they're not, and that's why they're in a fucking slump.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I always say to people, "That's a nice presentation. Where'd you learn that? Because you didn't learn it from me. That's not the presentation I taught you."
Yep. I would agree.
Well, listen, let's work on wrapping this up, Josh. Do you have like we've been here for 45 minutes and want to be kind of courteous to our listeners. We could talk to George all day long, and I can tell that we've got to have him on again because I got 18 more questions I want to ask him. But you have a follow up wrap up question, Josh?
No, George, look, man, I appreciate you being on here. We've known each other for a long time, and appreciate you taking some time out of your day. How can we help you? What are we going to do for you? If somebody wants to get in touch with you, you got anything you're pitching or selling, or any closing thoughts?
Probably don't reach out to me.
How can we help you? Don't call me.
Please don't tell a bunch of people that are new to call me. Please. If someone's done a deal or two, or they need a little like, hey, I'm doing all these things, I'm doing all the right stuff, and I'm still not making something, like, that's fine. I like to give advice to people. But if you're like, hey, I've been thinking about real estate for a while, I haven't ever made a single phone call, or like, actually, I have never taken any real action other than sitting in my fat ass in front of a fucking TV, don't call me.
Right.
In fact, it's in your best interests. Probably not.
Action. That's the bottom line, right? I mean, get off your butt.
You gotta fucking, you gotta be a doer at the end of it. Now, doing it, it looks different to many people. Like, I'm a salesman by trade, so of course the things that I'm looking to quote do are all marketing or sales related. But like, if you're a real estate investor that's like, this is the return I want, maybe more of a finance type guy, like, go interview a bunch of like really good high performing real estate agents that know what they're doing to start finding you deals. Like, see if you can find a construction partner, start getting estimates on fucking whatever, so you can understand some of those numbers. Like, that looks different for different people. Like, I guess for me, like, I'm very biased to talking to the, I want to be a wholesaler crowd, which unfortunately tends to be a get rich quick in real estate with no money or work crowd, which I don't appreciate. But, yeah, I guess. Are
you saying you work hard, George? Is that what you're saying? I mean, is it work?
Not always.
Is it work closing 10 deals a month?
Yeah, it's work.
I'm teasing. That was sarcasm.
All the people is work. That's fucking work. Right. The closing, the signature part is easy. It's the making sure the machine stays on and stays healthy is important. But anyway, yeah.
That's great. Hey, George, yeah. Go ahead. No, I was just going to say thanks. That we'll wrap it up here and get ready for tomorrow. I really appreciate you being on, and thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Good deal.
Yep. Peace. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Don't go away, George. We're going to close down the live.